Hello, and welcome to Mondays at the Museum. I'm Harriet Weber, Director of Operations at the Quincy Valley Historical Society and Museum, and we're so glad you tuned in. This is the beginning of a new series. This is part one of a three-part series on documenting your family history. And in a few minutes, you'll be meeting our speaker, who is Sue Simmons-Cabalas. She's been involved in genealogical research for many years. She'll tell you a little bit more about that herself. She's also our current board secretary, and she's here every Friday and Saturday afternoons to help individuals and families be able to trace, research, and document their family lines, which is a fascinating study. So we're so glad you tuned in. I want to read to you a quote by a woman named Hazel Thornton, and it likens family research work to doing a jigsaw puzzle. And I don't know if you like to put together jigsaw puzzles. I do, but straightforward jigsaw puzzles with a nice little picture that you can see what you're doing, they're kind of fun. Family history work, however, is signified by Hazel Thornton in this way. I like to compare genealogical research to working a jigsaw puzzle. Sound fun? It is, except imagine that there are dozens of puzzles all mixed together, one for each nuclear family, and many of the puzzle pieces are broken or missing, and there are extra pieces thrown in here and there from other people's puzzles. And you don't have any of the boxes with the pictures on them to guide you. So does that sound as fun? Sounds tough to me. It is. And yet, it is so rewarding when the pieces start to fit together and the picture starts to take shape. So we're so glad to have Sue with us. She's going to help us learn a process to be able to put together these pictures out of all of this mess of the jigsaw puzzle. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
Good evening. My name is Sue. I've been studying genealogy for many decades right now, and I enjoy it very much. In 1971, I was newly married and was interested in getting information from my grandmothers about what life was like when they were growing up and or newly married. I lived in California and they still lived in Quincy, so I found it necessary to get this information when I was in Quincy during my summer vacations. I started off by typing the information that I had collected and printed it and sent it to distant relatives for them to fill out the information that I was missing on their families. This became a large project since some of the relatives set it aside and others didn't want to share the information. At times the work went very slow since I was raising a young family and was also working. Help came when my mother retired, and she really got into this project. She had more relatives to contact that I was unaware of, and they seemed to be more receptive to her than they were to me. We shared information for a decade or so, and she began to write and publish books on the Ryman family. It wasn't until the early 90s that I was able to purchase a computer program that would organize the information that I had already acquired. This made it much easier to compile the information and correct errors in my information. When Ancestry.com became available on the internet, it got much easier to find the information since other people had already done research connecting with my family. I hit a few less brick walls. In 2006, when Quincy was getting ready to celebrate their centennial anniversary, I spent the winter compiling information from the 1910, 1920, and 1930 censuses for Burke, Quincy, Winchester, and Trinidad. I worked from families I knew had lived in the area and compiled a binder. My first binder was only a 1-inch binder. I have now binders that take up an entire shelf and more. After working with names, dates, places, I began to add stories that I had come across from obituaries that my grandmother and mother had collected over the years. I was also able to gather photos, such as graduation and wedding photos, of the family members. This is how my binders kept expanding and bringing these family members to life. It's like putting together a puzzle. Each piece shows a little more of the picture. So now I will begin. In the first lesson on family history, you start off with your name, your date of birth, your place of birth. Then you add your father's name, his date of birth, his place of birth, your mother's name, her date of birth, her place of birth. And to this you add your siblings, again with their date of birth and place of birth. From there you expand. Numerous forms are available with this information, like family group sheets and ancestral charts. You also need to collect family photos, arrange them in chronological order, and identify who is in each of the pictures. That's a very important part, because in future generations they may not know who that person is. Then you go on to check with your aunts and uncles, collecting their information, including their children, birth dates, and birthplaces. You find out if anyone in the family has already done research, because this may help you along with the project. You accumulate names, birth dates, birthplaces of your grandparents. This is important because once you get to your grandparents, you will very likely be able to find them on census, because at this point the 1940 census has come out too. You can find a lot of this on Ancestry.com and FamilySearch.org. The Mormon Church has a family research library. Local historical societies have a lot of information, and historical societies where your ancestors grew up. Again, you list all the information of your children, including who they married, their spouse's parents, and their children's birth dates and places of birth. Soon you will see that you're gathering a great deal of information and will need to organize it. A binder is good for this purpose, since items can be put in it and they can be expanded. For example, when I did the Founding Families of Quincy binder, again, it started out as a 1-inch binder, and it took the census from 1910, 20, and 30. Now, as it's expanded with pictures from family, stories from family, it is expanded into a great deal more. It now has expanded into many of the 3-inch binders. They contain obituaries, high school graduation photos, anniversary announcements out of the newspaper, and any information that will bring these families to life. That is how you start off on your first lesson of researching your family history. I did work on one example that you might be able to focus on. I did Abraham Lincoln's family group sheet. So I did where I had Abraham Lincoln's birth date, death date. I also have his parents on there. I have Mary Todd's birth date, death date, and her parents. Then I listed all of their children. Only one of them lived to adulthood. At the bottom of the page, I have where they were in certain census times. So that gives a lot more information, and it gives an example of where they were and what they were doing at each time. I also did his parents' family group sheet, doing the birth date and death date of both his mother and father and all of his siblings. Again, it shows the census dates of where they were, because they didn't stay in the same place for any length of time. Once you have that, then you can go to a pedigree chart. Everyone should have a pedigree chart. This is a pedigree chart of Abraham Lincoln's son, Robert. This shows Robert's father, mother, his father's father, his father's mother, his mother's father, his mother's mother. You can go on this, and sometimes you have it so that it's way out for several generations. This expands back, whereas your family group sheets are expanding forward. Then one of the things that I do for a lot of people is I give them a descendant sheet. This is a cheat sheet that you can use so that when you have your parents and yourself and all your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, you have on one sheet of paper their birth dates, their birthplaces, who they belong to, and you don't have to keep this in your memory at all times. Again, there are many different forms that you could fill out, and it makes it easy so that you can fill in all the information, and it comes in many different forms. So there are a lot of things that are available, and again, if you put this into the binder, you can have the binder for your family, for your father's family, for your mother's family, for your wife's father's family, and his mother's family. And you can get a big picture of everything in your family.
So thanks for tuning in tonight for lesson 1 on this series. And we really want to thank Sue Simmons-Gabalis. You might ask, why would I want to do this? Well, I would have to say to you that if you can understand where you came from, it will be a real help to you in helping you understand yourself as a person. So I think there's a real value in doing your family history work and researching and finding the stories of the people who came before you. And it's also a wonderful gift to pass down to your children so that they understand too who it was that contributed to their life and made them the person that they are today. So the other thing I want to say is that Sue is really glad. She does this on a volunteer basis. She works with individuals and families. If you want to come in and make an appointment with her on some Friday or Saturday or some other time, she would be glad to actually sit down and help you start organizing and putting this information for your family on the sheets that she's shown you. She'll help you really get going with a binder. We provide that free of charge and everything. So we encourage you to do that. You can call us, 509-787-4685, leave a message saying that you'd like an appointment with Sue, or you can email us at office@qvhsm, so officeqvhsm@gmail.com, or go on our website, qvhsm.org, and you can email us through there as well. So thanks so much for tuning in. Another Monday at the museum in the books. Good night.